Welcome back. If you're joining us from part one or the introduction of this particular video series, I talked a little bit about the Ferdinandina French powder horn that I was making. Part two, since the horn is already made, I want to just kind of cover some things about how I made it. This isn't really a how-to, this is more about the exploration and process that I went through in order to develop this particular powder horn. There are plenty of good books out there. That's how I learned how to do this, and watching some YouTubers, but primarily if you watch a YouTuber on how to make a powder horn, they will always reference this book. And this book is from Scott and Kathy Sibley. And a glare there, sorry about that. And it basically tells you how to do it. Lots of illustrations, lots of good things in there. Excuse me. And so I just want to cover some of the things that I went through when I was building this. First thing, locating a horn. You would think it would be fairly simple to do. There are obviously places that sell nothing but powder horn making supplies. Don't know if that's just a sign of the times or what, but everything they have in stock seems to be sold out. So I wasn't able to go through some of those to find what I was looking for. And to be honest with you, I think I was looking for something too big, because I was looking for the 18-inch powder horn, when in reality the one I settled on, about 10 and a half. And I think it's plenty big. But in my search for a suitable powder horn, I sought other locations like eBay. I found 4 horns, I think it was 5 horns on sale. Yeah, 5 actual horns on sale, eBay, for a very low price. So I got them. I would say I'm somewhat disappointed in them when I got them. They were smaller than what I thought, a little cruder than what I thought. But then I just kind of thought, well, the description was accurate. I didn't, raise a stink with it with the seller, because the description was accurate. But I got a box of horns, and so I immediately started tearing into it. Didn't follow some of the stuff in the book per se. I kind of went at it, a little haphazardly. Here's the horns that I got. I got a cream-colored horn, which seemed to be adequate. But then after I got to learning learning some actual processes, I discovered that this one was probably not adequate for what I was trying to do. So put it aside. The next one that I got was kind of really the thing that made me buy it, because the picture looked awesome. And that's this little horn right here. Now this might still make a good priming horn, but it's got a nice turned butt plug on it. But the spout on it is, it'd take you forever to try to fill this horn with powder just going through that little hole. That hole right there is probably maybe 3/16 of an inch. It's tiny. The butt plug does come out. The horn is super thin, and that's kind of a problem that I found with everything else. The one that I started working on first, I thought, this is going to be great. It was huge. I cut way too much off of the end, because I thought that I had to have just a very narrow area for the to drill the hole into, because one guy I listened to said you can't drill a curve, so you got to cut it short. So I cut it, and it didn't need to be cut that short. The problem with this horn, and I kind of gave up on it, is because there is an inclusion or a gap in the natural fibers. This horn was maybe damaged while it was on the animal, and then it kind of grew over. I don't really know how the biology of how horns grow, other than I've had cattle with horns, and you dehorn them and the horn doesn't grow back. But this had a gap in it, and it just kept getting further and further into the horn. And so you could tell this isn't finished. I kind of So I thought, well, let's just use it to practice on. So I practiced doing some faceting on. I practiced doing some You might be able to see it. I practiced doing some scrimshaw on. I practiced making it round based on the techniques discussed by in the Sibley book, and so it did kind of prove some value. The one that I finally took to completion was the one that was in the introduction. Too small to really be functional, or at least in my opinion. It's got powder in it right now, so obviously it does work. But this is where I kind of practiced more faceting, polishing it after I got it worked down so that it would look, like a finished horn. I did turn a butt plug out of a piece of ash. This piece of ash was the same stock that I got my sizing cones out of, which are also discussed in the Sibley book. I've made 2 of them now. I probably need to make even another one that goes smaller because this starts fairly large, and it's adequate, but there's always room to have more. So this is the one that I went ahead and like I said, I carved a stopper for. I did make a staple. Tried making it out of a nail. Didn't look as good as what I wanted it to. I did also try the technique discussed in the book of softening the horn by using hot oil rather than air or water. There's some cautionary things I need to let you know about that. This one was rounded with this butt plug using a heat gun. Now, heat guns probably work fine. It takes a long time to get it hot enough to get it malleable, but it does work. Now, one thing that I did find that maybe it did, it could possibly be drying the horn out too much, because afterwards it started to kind of crack and the fibers started to separate. So that was heated with a heat gun. That was forced in there, and it settles in and then makes a round opening. Round openings are important because it's easier to cut a round plug and fit it in there than some oblong weird shape. So and then also, as I said, these fibers are starting to separate. It's a relatively thick-walled horn, so it can stand some more working with both a rasp and a scraper, and you can scrape that off. Now, I will say that scraping the raw horn, and also this was also a very raw horn. It was covered in all kinds of cortex, and I had to, it looked like it was on the animal. It was not shiny. It was dull and gritty, and it it took a lot of working just to get it basically down to its shiny appearance. As was this one. This one was very raw and rough looking. So that is one of the things that it's if you are like me, you have the impatience of a gnat until it comes down to removing raw material at 1/64 of an inch, and somehow that is acceptable to me, or that's therapeutic to me. So the thing that I finally did with this horn is this was purchased at a Tandy leather store. I think it was $20. Wasn't quite as rough as maybe some of these were. This one is naturally looking, and it's not too bad. So it just kind of depends. It is a natural material from a living animal, and just like my fingernails look different from someone else's fingernails, and my hair looks different from someone else's hair. It's going to vary. But I got this at Tandy, paid about $20 for it. What I was looking for was a horn that had a compound curve to it. Not that only did it curve up, but it also had a curve out. The purpose for that I was looking for is so that when I hung it like I wanted to, it would follow the natural contours of my body. Now, you don't want it sticking out like that. You want it to curve. So, and I'm holding it up high because unlike maybe some of the things you've seen in movies or whatever, if you hang things low on your body, whenever you bend down, they have a tendency to want to swing around on you. The higher you can wear something like this on your body, the less movement it will have. Plus, being a powder horn, it's going to have some natural protection from moisture from your body. You can kind of, your arms can kind of cover it up, your garments can kind of cover it up. So it can cover some of that up. I was able to work this one down. I'll show in a minute the tools that I used to work it with and some of the other processes I used. So you can see what it is that you might be up against if you're wanting to do something like this. You could make a horn as simple as you want to, or as elaborate as you want to. There's a great book by Madison Grant, and I'll highlight that here in a minute, that it talks about the architecture of the powder horn. And there he's mainly concerning himself not with the decoration or the embellishment, but just how they were made. And he kind of champions the working man or the common man.